And so basically what the Egyptians used to do is for whatever type of energy that they wanted to bring through to the earth, they would actually could transport energy from one dimension into the next dimension. We would say that in all honesty, this is one of the mysteries on how those temples and pyramids were built. To this day, and I'm quoting the late Asa Hilliard, who just made the transition, who was one of the pioneers in the whole chematology or Egyptology field for black people. One of his things is don't believe them. They don't bit more know how they built those pyramids to this day. They have had over 100 theories. I've seen at least 15 different theories that was put on shows since the late 80s. So they've had over 100 theories on how it is, and they don't bit more know how those pyramids are built. And that's a part of their superiority to make you think that they're superior when they try to explain things. You see what I'm saying? But it's impossible to get those types of stones and the different things and transport them down the Nile from barges on ships and different things like that. You see what I'm saying? So my point here is they don't bit because it was a spiritual aspect of things, and I'm going to go into something in a few minutes. But what they would do is basically they would have certain entities that will come and help them manifest certain things. And let me give you an example. They had this powder that they dealt with alchemy. The Egyptians dealt with alchemy. And alchemy is the royal art of the ancient Egyptians. It is the study of not only stones, but also the study of the spiritual essence of man in every element in the universe and outside of the known universe. And so alchemy is the chief science of the ancient Kamites or the ancient Egyptians. And there was one story where they would create this white powder. And when the British went into Egypt, they went into the pyramids, they found this white powder. And all they knew is everything they put stuff on, it would float. If they put it on this couch, the couch would float. If they put it on you, you would float. So this is some kind of way how they built those actual pyramids. And they caught a whole ship of this stuff up and took it back to England and didn't secure it, and all of it blew away but a saucer. And they got the saucer right now with this stuff in the British Museum. They don't know how to make it because they were not master teachers. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about people that were so advanced in technology till it was nothing for them, you see what I'm saying, to build pyramids and different things like that. Another thing is what we just found out on, on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, they had two movies came out. One is called The Spiderwick Chronicles, which is talking about the fairy realm that we'll get into. Another one is called Jumpers. Movie called Jumpers, where they would jump from different parts of the earth. And they had these particular ones. The guy that played Anakin Skywalker, he was playing in the actual movie. And so when I was in the lecture, I did a lecture at the Moore Science Temple in Chicago. One brother asked a question, and usually when some people ask questions, they'll actually give you answers. So the brother would ask a question, and he said, what were the pyramids actually built for? And so if you're in the right environment with the right people at the right time, you can break open dimensions where certain knowledge that was lost to the earth would be revealed to you. And immediately I said, oh, there were ancient airports. Now check it out. They said that there was a guy named Bob Ryer who wrote a book called Egyptian Magic, and later on he's one of the few people that actually successfully mummified a body since the ancient Egyptians. Bob Ryer did a thing where he went around the earth and showed that there was pyramids all over the planet. All over the planet. And basically what we realized what it was, because that particular information, even the Native American mounds over here is pyramids. You see what I'm saying? We got a mounds right up the street here on Cascade at White Park or something. There's a mounds up there. So anyway, what we found out was that people could go to a pyramid or go in the pyramid or go near the pyramid, and based on a certain amount of frequency and energy and knowing what they could do, they could go in one pyramid in Kemet and reappear in the pyramid in Mexico, or the pyramids in South America, or the pyramids in Asia. They got a pyramid under the water in Japan. They got a pyramid in China. So we're finding out now that these particular things are ancient airports. Now, because our science don't bear witness to it, doesn't necessarily mean it's not real. And you must ask this particular question here. If the science is not bearing witness to it, it's because it's a conspiracy, because they don't want the science to bear witness to it. See, in order to rule a people, you must think that you must tell the people that the technology that we have today is number one. You must tell them that that everything progressed up to this particular point. Whereas we know that technology has risen and fallen several times on the actual planet. So that particular theory might be preposterous, but the day that I explained it, the movie Jumpers had just started the day before. We're waiting on that movie to come to video. The actual the critics shitted all over it. A lot of times when they give something a thumbs down, is because they want to hide a certain amount of information in a movie. So when they want you to get something, they'll say, okay, thumbs up, because they want to reiterate something to you. And a lot of times it's for exploitation. But sometimes when they want to hide something, they will tell you, no, this is a piece of garbage. Now let me give you an example of what I'm talking about to bring this thing home as far as these ancient airports. We know that people can redo their elements, their molecules, and reappear all over the planet. Now, to give you an example, to document what I'm saying, why this thing could be true as far as this ancient airport. If you get the autobiography of a yogi, with this guy Yogananda, and they talk about this guy that was 300 years old and 300 pounds. And he was a pound for every 100 years, or so many pounds for every 100 years. And he was only living that long because he didn't have the right students in the order that could keep the actual knowledge going, so that in actuality they could carry on. So that meant until he got a student at the adept level that could take over the actual mystery school that he had to stay on the earth until they taught one. So this guy used to sleep under the ocean, and for about a month, and he would come up every month out of the ocean. These are true stories. He would be butt naked. They would lock him up in jail. This was in the 1800s. And the people would run into jail immediately and say, you got a big fat man meditating on top of the jail. And they'd lock him up again, and he would go back and redo his molecules and reappear on the jail. So my point here is he had gotten to the adept level that he could do this based on the meditation and the kundalini energy and the different things, accessing the certain chakras and the different things that he was doing over the course of years. Whereas the ancient Egyptians used to use these vortex, what you call pyramids, temples, and obelisks, and these different things, and they can actually create the same effect with time travel, or what we would call geographic travel.
Like teleportation.
Teleportation. Yeah. Teleportation. Another thing here is there's this temple here. I got a picture of it right here. This is the temple of Angkor Wat, which the whole complex is 30 miles long of the different temples. Now, it's interesting because I'm showing this because there's a documentary recently that they did on Angkor Wat. And they went to a guy that said he was a reincarnation of one of the guys that actually worked on the temple. And so they asked him, well, how did you do it? He said, well, it was a bunch of God. He said it was me, a group of people that worked, that was workers, and he said, but it was the different gods, Shiva, Vishnu, Vishnukar, Brahma, Hanuman, and they also worked with us to build this temple. So in so many words, they were saying that they had a spiritual force along with them that would help them move those stones, or those stones reappear, or appear out of thin air, and different things like that. That they would have, that they actually built the temple, and they got this man actually talking about it. And I'm like, this guy here is a modern day representative of something that the ancients used to do to this day. And the only reason why we haven't figured it out yet is for one reason. Number one, we want to make sure that it fits within our laws. And it might take us 100 years just to come up and go, okay then. We finally got proof that they did it this way. In order, just in order to humble ourselves and go, hey, the ancient people knew more than we did. But then again, like I said, that's the people who rule. The people who rule want you to think that they are at the cutting edge of technology. You see what I'm saying? And the only thing they're doing is picking up pieces and splinters. So there's a book called The Black Goddess and the Unseen Real. Very important book. It's been out of print for about 20 years. You can go on the internet and get it. It's called The Black Goddess and the Unseen Real by Peter Redgrove. And in this book, he talks about how the African and the indigenous person could take an animal and they could observe that animal for just a couple of years, and they can know everything about that animal, everything on the inside of that animal, everything on the whole nature of that animal. Whereas the European would dissect. They even in science, the first thing they do is they start you off dissecting frogs. And they dissect, and when you dissect, it might take them 100 years just to put the pieces together, and they may never know, because we're talking about something that's both spiritual and physical. You see what I'm saying? So the